This is the beginning of an interview with Mr. Robert Harris. Mr. Harris is a veteran of World War II, during which he served in the United States Army Air Corps from January 1942 to October 1945. This interview is being conducted at the Atlanta History Center in Atlanta, Georgia. My name is Frederick Wallace, and I am the interviewer. Mr. Harris, as we said earlier, this is going to be your story, and we want you to tell us, and when I say us, I'm talking about the American people, about your military service. And we want you to tell it in your own words. Take us from the beginning. Tell us where you were born, why you entered the service, and then take us step by step from that point on throughout your various duty stations to your date of discharge. So, Mr. Harris, this is your story. Would you begin, please?
I understand, and thank you. I was born in Montgomery, Alabama on Halloween 1920, and as a matter of fact, my mother used to kiddingly say that someone knocked at the door and she answered, and the person said trick or treat, and I was born. And because she said trick instead of treat. I went to Auburn University so that I could take certain math courses and take a competitive exam for the Naval Academy. As it turned out, at the end of my sophomore year, I got an appointment to the Naval Academy, and I was just thrilled to death. I went to Annapolis, and lo and behold, my exuberation disappeared when I found out that I had astigmatism. When I went before the final board, I'll call it that, I was practically in tears, and I had two questions. One is, could I get in West Point? And number two, why would astigmatism preclude my having a naval career? Well, each question was answered very positively. One is the astigmatism was a distortion of the eyeball, and the Navy felt that I would get, anyone with astigmatism would get extreme headaches as a result of this distortion. The second question was answered this way: you'll have no trouble getting into West Point because your eyes will not be dilated. They gave me a choice of staying and taking another physical, or going home and eating lots of carrots and things of that sort, and having another physical. I elected to go home, and I did go to several doctors who verified the fact that I indeed had astigmatism. A little while after that, Pearl Harbor came into being. Well, I had always wanted, I loved military, I loved flying. I took aeronautical engineering at Auburn, and all I could think about were airplanes. So when Pearl Harbor came into being, I said, I've got to go. I'd heard about aviation cadets and the aviation cadet program, so I immediately volunteered with the cadet program. I took a physical on the latter part of latter part of December, and my call date was around January the 5th. I passed the physical because they never dilated my eyes. In fact, throughout my entire service period, about 4 years, I never had my eyes dilated. The upshot of this, I got into the cadet program. I stayed about 6 weeks at Maxwell, which was the cadet reception center, and then I went to primary flight training. The primary flying was at Dorr Field, Arcadia, Florida. I stayed there 2 months and graduated. Went to basic flying school back to Montgomery, Alabama, and had 2 more months of what is called basic flying. Finally,
when you say you went back to Montgomery, Alabama, where?
Gunner Air Force, Gunner Field,
Gunner Field.
Gunter, Gunner Field. And I finished there and was sent to Napier Field at Dothan, Alabama, a single-engine school, primarily for those interested in being fighter pilots, and graduated there January the 5th, I believe, I beg your pardon, September the 5th, 1942. I got my orders at Napier and was told that I would become a basic instructor. I was then transferred to Maxwell Field again in Montgomery, which was the home in those days of Central Instructor School. I took about 6 weeks of learning how to be an instructor and graduated and was sent to Bainbridge, Georgia, Bainbridge Army Airfield, I'll call it. I'm not 100% sure of that nomenclature. And I instructed there for about 9 or 10 months in basic flying.
What kind of airplane?
We flew BT-13s and BT-15s, the BT basic trainer. And I had about 3 cadet classes, and one day we were interviewed. Well, I skipped something. I checked out at an airplane known as the P-40 Warhawk, there, a frontline fighter, and it really just whetted my appetite for overseas. I had heard that there was an opportunity to go to China as a fighter pilot, and one would receive training in China, primarily in Kunming, for fighter tactics and so on. And I thought this was a marvelous opportunity. I can't remember the exact date that I left the States for the Far East, but it was around, I'm going to say around June of 1943. I flew to Florida. I'm trying to recall the name of the jumping off point. It was extremely in South Florida, and well, anyway, I'll probably think of it later. We took off from there, and it took us about 3 weeks to get to India.
How did you travel? How did you travel?
We were flying in a military transport, and it was a 4-engine, a B-24, as a matter of fact. And I thought to myself at the time, thank goodness I don't have to fly one of these darn things. And it was, in a sense, that was a prophetic at minimum. But anyway, I went through places like Puerto Rico. I went through South America, India, I beg your pardon, Africa, then India, and across India, and we got to a town known as Chabwa, which was a large military base, and decisions were made there where various people would go. In my case, someone looked at my Form 5, I believe, and said, look at all this time. And I was told that Madam Chiang Kai-shek had talked to Congress about lack of support for China, The Burma Road had fallen, the Lido Road had gotten really not very far, and the only way to keep China supplied with war materials was over the hump, the Himalayas. And so I was told at the time, congratulations, you are going to a 4-engine airplane at a base called Jorhat, Jorhat. And I said, gosh, I've never even flown a twin-engine airplane, much less a 4-engine airplane. The upshot of this, the officer doing the interviewing said, you'll love it. Well, I'm not sure that was a valid statement. But anyway, I did go to Jorhat. I did participate in answering Madam Chiang Kai-shek's plea for more goods to China, bombs, ammunition, gasoline, etc. And I actually flew the hump about, over 300 hours. It would have been the equivalent of about 100 flights over the hump.
Can you tell us something for a minute? What happened to the training you received in the P-40? Did you ever fly the P-40 on tactical missions?
Yes. It so happened that immediately, not immediately, but I was there only a while, and they needed someone to fly a P-40 across India to Karachi. And the fighter units were low on personnel at the time, and they asked me, because of P-40s being in my record, I assume, would I fly the P-40 to a station in Karachi, which I did. And that, in a sense, opened Pandora's box. It was recognized that I had fighter experience, that I had flown the P-40, and that at various times during my stay in India, China, and Burma, I was asked by the 10th Air Force, India, 14th Air Force in China, to perform certain duties. As it turned out, I ended up flying P-40s on about 24 missions. Most of these missions were escort and reconnaissance. A very peculiar one was the Japanese invaded India, and it was at two cities, two towns, known as Kohima and Imphal. I was asked to fly in that area and to see if I could draw enemy fire. Well, I thought, gee, gosh, I'm not worth very much if that's the kind of mission I flew. But I did go, and there was no anti-aircraft. There was no, I got no firing on my airplane whatsoever. So we found out that the Japs did not have a lot of anti-aircraft material at this great, it turned out to be an incredible battle of Imphal and Kohima, where hundreds and even thousands of Australian troops died fighting or precluding this Japanese invasion of India. So that gives you a little background of the 24 missions I flew. Now,
can I ask for a point of
Yes.
clarification? I seem to have interrupted your flow of your narrative. Do I get the impression that you were flying both types of aircraft at the same time?
Yes.
You would fly get from one to the other?
Yes, you're
depending
100%,
on
100% right.
what's needed.
The Transport Command refused to release me because of the pilot demand, and but they would allow me to undertake fighter missions when I was not required to fly the hump. And the hump flights, if I can relate them to flying fighters, I think the fear, being afraid, was more pronounced on the hump than in my fighter missions. Now, I did not have aerial combat. That may have been different had I been flying against a Japanese fighter. But the hump was God-made, and my problems were God-given. Nature took over. The hump has in it the highest mountain in the world, Mount Everest, at 29,000 feet. It has a number of peaks. I don't know what an average would be, but 24,000 feet was not uncommon. We used as a checkpoint an area known as the Three Sisters, and they were about 23 to 24,000 feet. We were continually confronted with winds, updrafts and downdrafts. Icing was incredible, and most of the time our de-icing equipment would not work. Quite often, nearly on every flight, both the pilot and the co-pilot had to have his feet, all 4 feet on the rudder pedals, all 4 hands on the yokes, the wheels that controlled the airplane, because of this violent weather. And then in addition to that, we had the northern key base, which is not far from where we were flying, Myitkyina, Burma, and because of the close proximity of Myitkyina, we had to fly further and further north to evade the Nakajima fighters that were stationed at Myitkyina. The missions were predicated totally on need of the pilot. There was a continuous flow of airplanes. We flew both B-24s and transport offshoot of the B-24, known as the C-87. They obviously were 4-engine airplanes with a service ceiling of probably a little less than 28,000 feet, which meant that we were flying at really max altitude. And I failed to mention one thing that played a part in being concerned, and that was the max load. The B-24 had a design weight of about a little less than 60,000 pounds. Well, it was not uncommon for us to fly up to 72,000 pounds, which meant that a takeoff was quite critical. If an engine coughed, you may have joined your maker. I got in the habit then, and I did it through the rest of my flying career, and even back into civilian life. Oh God, one more good takeoff. And it stayed with me because of the critical situation involving an overloaded airplane and takeoff at these places. In China, for instance, I can't remember India, the elevation, but in Kunming, where I flew both fighters and B-24s, it was over 5,000 feet elevation. So we had a tenuous deal in a loaded airplane on takeoff.
So flying
I wonder, could I stop for a minute and can I do that? And
okay, before we took a break, I was going to ask you to clarify the mission that you were flying in support of Madam Chang. You said that she had asked for additional support, and you were talking about flying over the hump. Will you clarify for us, please, the nature of the mission that you were flying?
Great question, and I guess I just plain overshot. There were a number of bases in Upper Assam, India, that supplied the hump, supplied China by flying the Himalayas. The principal airplanes were the C-46 Kurdish Commando and the C-87 slash B-24 Liberator. We were flying nearly everything that one could think of needed in a military sense. In my missions primarily, going to China, we flew bombs, gasoline in drums. We flew.
So you were transporting.
We were transporting these to Kunming from the Burma frontier, which was known as Assam, and these were once in a while we flew B-24s. In addition to the transport version of the B-24 known as the C-87. And what we did there was to, they would load the bomb racks and add as much gasoline as they could. And when we got to Kunming, they would drain the tanks, except leaving enough fuel to get back to India, and take the bombs out of the bomb racks. So in a sense, we were supplying China from B-24s as well as from transports. Not a strange thing, but one of the things that helped my morale so much while in Jorhat, my mother and I, when I was a little boy, used to, on Sunday afternoons, go out and look for four-leaf clovers. And there was a poem, I can't quote the entire thing, but if you will have hope and you will have faith and you will have love, and so if you watch, if you wait, you will find the place where four-leaf clovers grow. And it was something that we dearly loved to do, and nearly every letter that I got from my mother while I was overseas contained a four-leaf clover. And it helped morale and helped me believe that, by gosh, I would get home in spite of some of the things that took place both in my P-40 days and in my hump flying days.
Can you give us something of a sense of what life was like at the base where you were flying from? Was this an American base, and was it populated by American personnel or a mixture of different nationalities?
Yes. It was an American base. In fact, all of the bases, I can't name them all. We happened to be at Jorhat. There was one known as Tezpur. One is I can't recall it. Moinberry was one. Sukrating was another. But there were a number of American bases from which these transports flew to get over the hump to supply China, because, as I mentioned earlier, the Burma Road was controlled by the Japanese, and the Lido Road never quite materialized. Let's see, let me collect my thoughts for a second. Where was I?
The crew that you were flying with?
We had various crews. We didn't generally stay with one. I'm glad you mentioned that crew bit, because all of us got there maybe as novices, especially on 4-engine, and we had to fly a number of flights over the hump as co-pilot before they checked us out as a pilot. And that was true in my case as well as others. So I did fly a few missions as a co-pilot. Then I flew missions as pilot. In fact, when I left Jorhat, I was a fully qualified hump commander, and on a B-24. And we had the crews varied. It sometimes, on occasions, we had a navigator. We always had a flight engineer. We always had a cargo handler. We always had a pilot and a co-pilot. Generally, we had a crew of about 5 persons. And that deviates from a crew flying, say, a B-24 in England in combat, where the crew complement would be about 10 people. the additional people would be the gunners. We carried aboard our shoulder holsters, which were 45s. In addition, each of us had a carbine, but other than that, the airplane was without armament. And we did carry, occasionally, strapped around our waist, silver coins that in case we were shot down or couldn't complete the flight, we were to give these silver coins to whomsoever gave us a hand and enabled us to get out. We carried a little kit of cards and silk maps, and on our backs we had what is known as a bloodshed. And these generally had messages in the various languages associated with that part of the world. We had chins and cut chins, and we had Nagas and various tribes with peculiar dialects. And on these maps and these so-called things that we wore on our backs, one of Burma, one American flag, were messages to people to give us a hand. They would be rewarded if we were safely led out of wherever we may be. The time we used to wonder about how long were we going to be there, how many missions. We saw friends die on takeoff. We very seldom ever saw, in fact I cannot recall ever seeing an airplane go down over the hump, because we were separated for safety. Although we weren't always separated from airplanes flying out of other bases, but I never saw an airplane go down on the hump.
From hostile fire, I mean?
From icing, from mechanical failure, for maybe even a fighter came out of the cloud cover and shot him down. I never saw that. We lost hundreds of airplanes. I thought I would remember, and I almost do, the number of airplanes lost. It was well over 600 due to those two actions, the weather, or maybe three actions, the weather, mechanical, or fighter action. And we wondered, how long are we going to have to fly this thing? In my opinion, there was a finite end to a finite time in which all of us could survive. I'm not sure that we could have made it had we, just continued to fly. And a very peculiar instance happened to me on this hump bit flying. One day we were having coffee in the mess hall, and I was called at the telephone and told that a new airplane had arrived with electronic turbo superchargers. And I said, hey, I've never flown an airplane with electronic supercharger. It was electronic supercharger control. These were General Electric superchargers and Honeywell control, the new one. The guy said, look, you're assigned to the flight and you are going to have to fly it. I went back to my coffee and the table and was complaining about it. And they had told me to come down early. And a friend of mine at the table said, hey, I've had experience with them. His name was Hugh Hardy, a graduate of William and Mary. He said, Bob, I'll take your flight. And I said, I'll take your airplane, you take mine. I said, Hugh, that's bad luck. He said, I don't believe in bad luck. Well, he took my airplane and I took his, and I got off the ground first and was circling for altitude, and I looked down and Hugh Hardy was taking off, and he crashed on takeoff at the end of the runway. Bombs and gasoline and ammunition blew, and it probably was one of those most horrible sights I think that I've ever seen. The fact that in the case of Christianity, Jesus took our place, and my thought was, Hugh Hardy took my place, and it's probably the most miserable few hours I've ever spent in an airplane flying that day.
What type of airplane was that?
That was a C-87 B-24. It was, B-24 and the C-87 are almost synonymous.
So when Hugh went down, he went down with his full crew?
Full crew, and of course they were all killed, and the bombs and what have you blew and sky high, and I can't think of anything. Even today I can recognize the crash of an airplane. It just has crash written all over it. At night, of course, you see the flames. In the daytime, you see primarily the black smoke, but it's a disconcerting thing. Well, I completed my mission, and I completed my 24 P-40 flights, both out of Kunming, and I even went into Burma in the P-40 and to Myitkyina. And that is the only real battlefield that I've ever been on in World War II. We went into Myitkyina to support if need be, and as it turned out, Myitkyina had surrendered. And we stayed around a few days, and one of the personnel officers took us on a tour of the battlefield. And Myitkyina was always a quest of the military, of Stilwell and the Merrill's Marauders and the Chindits and all the people, the Chinese X-Force. The effort on the ground was to get Myitkyina and get the Japanese out of North Burma. That would enable safer flights over the hump. It would conceivably open the Burma Road. It would, the Liro Road was built to replace the Burma Road, but it would at least open transportation to supply China. And I'm trying to think of words to describe Myitkyina and the battlefield.
Now, Myitkyina was the air base.
Myitkyina was the name of the town and the Japanese air base, and the Japanese infantry was there too. Japanese infantry, Japanese pilots, large supply dump for holding North Burma in the hands of the Japanese. We went on the battlefield with this captain, as I recall, and we were told, we were admonished, we couldn't touch anything because of booby trapping. And it was incredible. I thought at the time, gee, the Lord gave me a degree of sense to have joined the Army Air Corps rather than the infantry. The odors, the stench was unbelievable. We saw caves where the Japanese had been caught by flamethrowers. They were still in the caves dead, of course. Bodies all over the field. I saw swords and guns, that pistols primarily, that I would dearly love to have had, but of course we couldn't touch anything. And when they said you can't touch anything, they meant it. And we got within a foot or two of many of these artifacts that would have been quite appealing to me. I was not alone with this in the tour. There were about, there must have been about 5 or 6 pilots who had gone in support of the battle, and we never were used at all. We had airplanes, but we didn't use them.
So you toured this battlefield
So I toured the
in
battlefield.
vehicles?
Beg pardon?
I see you toured this battlefield in Army vehicles?
No, walking. We
Oh,
walked.
you were walking?
We walked, yes.
Oh, okay.
We walked, and I saw sights that, as I say, I never imagined would be in my lifetime. But anyway, it was an eye-opener, and I'm, in hindsight, glad that I had the opportunity, because it made me realize what these infantry people and artillery people went through. And
So during the time you were flying over the hump, you did not encounter any hostile fire from...
we saw, yes.
You didn't have any armament on your plane?
No, we did not. We did not.
How did you protect yourself?
We did not. We only had the carbines and the sidearms.
Mm.
Yes, I did see on a couple of occasions, different occasions, airplanes in the distance, dots, if you please. But we had nothing but cloud cover, so it was easy. We most of the time couldn't see above or below. We were completely inundated, and that added to the trials and tribulations of flying. We had a radio beacon at a place in Burma called Fort Hertz, and we would fly to, we would use that beacon when it was operating. It was off and on. It was unpredictable. We used dead reckoning in our navigation when we did not have a navigator aboard. The dead reckoning necessitates an appreciation of the winds and the directions and velocity. Most of the time we couldn't see the ground, and at night we flew initially only day missions. The Army Air Corps headquarters said that it was inconceivable that we should have to fly the hump at night. But only after a few months at Jorhat, those orders were changed, and we flew both night and day. And we couldn't see the ground. We had to use what navigation abilities we had. With the instruments on the airplanes were generally pretty good. We had gyro compasses, we had magnetic compasses, we had no, the flight controls, I beg your pardon, the automatic pilots didn't really work. So we had to manually fly the airplane most of the time, the pilot or the co-pilot. And well, we generally took turns. But navigation was somewhat difficult because of these winds that were unpredictable. We had, and I may have mentioned this earlier, but in the event that I didn't, we had updrafts and downdrafts where it was not uncommon to be uplifted 1,000 feet and drop 1,000 feet in just a fraction of a second because of the mountainous terrain. And of course that bothered us. We never knew exactly where we were, so we were not 100% sure where the large peaks were, and that was a bothersome situation.
But when you made it safely over the hump and you landed, who greeted you?
We were greeted by a jeep and led to a revetment. We got out of the airplane, and we had to go to operations, of course, to sign in and to sign out. We were given, if it were early in the morning, we had breakfast. If it were midday, we had lunch. They treated us royally. As we landed in the transport, we got a thumbs up from the Chinese workmen working on the runway. We had a tremendous runway in Kunming. It was gravel, but it was about 10,000 feet long, as I recall. Flying a P-40 was even more of a thrill with regards to the Chinese and their display of appreciation. You taxi by them, and you would see them do this, and it was very heartening to know that the natives did appreciate being there, helping as we were trying to do.
And did you spend the night there at the base where you
On
landed?
occasions we did.
And then how did you get back?
They call them, we stayed in hostels. I'm hesitant to guess. I would say of the missions over, guessing 50, 55, at least 10 to 20% of the time, we got a nap, and which was tremendously refreshing. Now, every once in a while, we had to go to other bases. We couldn't get into Jorhat because of the inclement weather, and we would sleep under the wing of the airplane as best we could. We generally used a parachute as a pillow, and so we did get rest when rest was urgently needed. And
what type of relaxation, what forms of relaxation did you have available to you?
we had, you know, I completely skipped that, and I've never really reflected on that. We had Basha boys. That wasn't exactly the nomenclature, and it skips me at this point. But they would go in the jungle, and we lived in a tea patch. The area in which we lived, where the air base was located, was a tea plantation that had been taken over by the military, and there were tea bushes all around. And we had these young Indian boys whom we paid out of, certainly they weren't paid by the government, we paid them out of our allowance, and they would go into the jungle and get us bananas and things of that sort. We did exercising as we could, calisthenics. We were not required by the military to do that. We did it of our own volition. Fellow pilots used to tease me because, and I just happened to think of this, I'm a pajama guy, and we slept under mosquito netting, and I always religiously wore my pajamas. 90% of the guys slept with nothing on, and the other 10% had a wraparound. So I was the pajama guy. And but we, to go back to your question of recreation, we did get rest leaves. We would go to various places like Darjeeling. We would go to Kashmir. There's a place, and once again, memory is not serving me well today. It has the highest rainfall of any spot in the world. We would go there for 4 days or a week at the time.
And what would you do there?
Beg pardon?
What would you do there?
We would wear clean uniform. We would look for girls with whom to date. Quite a few Anglo-Indian girls, most attractive. There were English girls. In fact, I dated an English girl who, she told me her father was a brigadier in North Africa at the time. But we would shop and buy things to send home. We would have lots of cocktails. We were drinking Carews gin and Tiger brand whiskey, which was kind of a mixture of rum and bourbon. But to name a specific thing that we did at Jorhat for exercise, I just can't recall. It's a wee bit embarrassing, but
no, it's okay.
I just can't remember.
How did you maintain contact with your family? I take it you were not married at the time.
No, I was not married, and I promised myself I would never marry until the war was over. I was just afraid of something happening. I never had any communication other than the mail that we received and sent. As a matter of fact, my mother told me that one of my brothers, I had one brother who was a sergeant. I had another brother who was either a captain or a major at the time, had been in North Africa, and or was in North Africa. So when I had a choice to come home, I selected North Africa to see if I could find my brother. It turned out, and he was in Casablanca at the time, supposedly. He was not there. He had already come home and had gone to Italy. So I missed him completely. The alternative was to fly back through Australia, and I often regretted not flying back through Australia since I missed my brother in Casablanca.
You said you were selected to come home. How was the selection made?
They finally established a time.
So many missions?
So many missions. And my hump mission time was in excess of 300 hours. I can't tell you exactly. A flight over the hump to Kunming, assuming that one did not have to take peculiar maneuvers to avoid icing or fighter action or what have you, would take a wee bit over 3 hours. Mm-hmm. So 3 hours there, 3 hours back, and I figured at 6 hours, and that I had well over 100 missions. And so we were told one day, congratulations, you're through. And I said, does this mean I'm through flying the hump? And I flew through with P-40s. They said, you've made the grade. And that's when I left and made the decision to go through North Africa to find my brother.
And you were traveling, you traveled to North Africa by what means?
We went over by airplane and we returned by airplane. We flew over in a B-24. We flew back in a C-46, a Curtiss Commando. We flew into New York. And incidentally, I just happened to remember my port from which I departed America, Boca Raton, Florida. Okay. And it took quite a while to remember that, but
you flew into New York.
We flew into New York. We were met by some very lovely Red Cross girls.
Where in New York? Where in New York?
Let's see, this must have been, good gracious, that's a heck of a question. You know, I
mean, was it New York City or was it?
Oh no, it was a. We were, I guess the civilian places like, of course, they only had one port at the time, and that was it was Newark, New Jersey serving New York, and the New York serving New York, and Kennedy was not in being, of course.
Okay, so it was an air base. It was an air base that you flew into.
Yes, okay. Yes. Well, no, I think it was a civilian.
A civilian airport.
Yeah, because as we circled around, we saw the Statue of Liberty, and I've never seen anything so beautiful in my life. We landed there, and I'm trying to be sure. It was LaGuardia, I'm almost sure.
Well, it really is not.
And we were met by these Red Cross girls, and they wanted to know what we would like to have. And I said, you know, if I told you, I'm sure you wouldn't know what I was talking about. And the girl said, try me. And I said, I'd like some collard greens. She said, you're right. I don't even know what collard greens are. But I always love collard greens. But we stayed in New York a few days, and we got a shave and a haircut, and went to beautiful bars, and were hailed by lovely New Yorkers. And little did I think at the time that some few years would pass and I would become a New Yorker. But do I have time to mention my after days?
Yes, that's what I was going
if
to.
I'm running out of time.
No, well, I'll let you know.
Okay.
Yes,
great.
I'd like for you to go into the time after the service.
Okay. Okay.
Where were you discharged from?
Ultimately, I was discharged, believe it or not, from Fort McPherson
Ah, okay.
after when I got out of the service.
So you
but-
left New York and traveled.
But in
back to
New
Georgia.
York, we had to go to a staging area, which happened to be Nashville, Tennessee. So we got it. We had a leave, and I'm going to guess that leave was about 30 days. I went home, of course. After that, I reported to Nashville, and they asked me what I'd like to do. And I said I'd like to fly high-performance fighters, all that I could fly, whatever type might be available, and flying around the country or the world. And they said, you know, we think that we can put you in an area where you can do that. So I was transferred then to Memphis, Tennessee. They had a ferry command operation there. And sure enough, I flew various fighters. As a matter of fact, when I got out of the service, I got a list of the airplanes in which I was qualified to fly: 4-engine, twin-engine, single-engine. And there were 28 different airplanes in which I ultimately checked out and flew. I flew, I was penalized one day. I was flying out of Memphis, and I was called into operations, and they said, I knew the operations officer, and he said, Bob, there are quite a few primary fields being closed. These are single-engine pilots, single-engine instructors, and we would like to have you become one of the instructors on twin-engine aircraft. And I said, look, I've been an instructor. I don't want to instruct anymore. I've been in combat. Here are my ribbons. I'm just not going to do it. If I have to plead with the highest ranking person I know, I just don't want to instruct anymore. He said, thank you, and he was very cool, and he did say, that may have cost you your captaincy. A few days later, I got orders to go to B-29 school. And I think this was punishment. I didn't want to fly multi-engine airplanes, so they selected the largest one of all. I went through B-29 school, flying both in Birmingham, Alabama, and at Oklahoma City, checked out daytime and nighttime, and came up with the decision that it's the best one of the best airplanes I ever flew. I loved it. And in fact, I flew a couple of airplanes out of Marietta, delivering B-29s to various bases. For some reason, right after that, I got a telephone call in which the voice at the other end said, I'm Colonel so-and-so. Would you like to fly and test America's first jet? I said, good Lord. Well, first he asked, did I know what a jet is? And I said, of course I do. I took aeronautical engineering for 2 years. He said, we are going to ask...
Only about 5 more minutes.
Okay. We're going to ask you to, we're going to try to generate orders to have you test America's first jet. I was transferred to Eglin Air Force Base, which is the Proving Ground Command, and we tested the P-59, the Air Comet, for operational suitability to see if it was qualified for combat. Because of very slow acceleration, we turned it down. But it did give me an opportunity to fly as a test pilot America's first jet. I flew fighters. I had access, when I wasn't flying, testing, I had access to any airplane on the base. We had, they even had me running missions in a P-51 as a bomber, where we were told when to drop the bomb and where to drop the bomb. And I was seated all the way down in the airplane, and I couldn't look outside. They even had one mission testing the demand oxygen regulators on the P-47. I had missions, quite a few, on the P-38, which also became one of my favorite airplanes. If I had to rank the airplanes in first love, it would be the P-51, number 1, the B-29, number 2, and the P-38, number 3, although I had more little problems with the P-38 than any other airplane.
This has been very interesting. Can you tell me then why you chose to be separated from the service rather than to make a career of it?
That's an easy one. I wanted to be a career military guy, but I wanted to graduate from one of the service academies. And when I was turned down by the Naval Academy, I thought that was indeed the kiss of death. And I said, I've only had 2 years of college. I went back to get my degree in aeronautical engineering. I was offered 2 jobs. I only took 2 interviews, one General Electric and one NASA. And I took General Electric, and that's why I ended up in New York.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Harris. We really enjoyed this. And I think that you have a tremendous story to tell. And I'm sure that there's a lot of things, a lot more that you can talk about.
In hindsight, I wish I had more time, because I'm beginning to recollect little things. But I did cover the major part, and you were a great interviewer.
Well, thank you very much.
I appreciate it.
But there may be an opportunity for you to talk some more. And if given that opportunity, I hope that you will take advantage of it, because you do have an interesting story.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you very much. We really appreciate this.
Thank you.